Welcome to today's live stream. Today we're going to go through CompTIA lab number 30. We're going to do this one on acquiring digital forensics evidence. So this one's going to be on forensics. If you have any questions as we go through this, please leave a chat or email info@cyberkrafttraining.com. We're going to go ahead and spin this one up. And if you do have any questions, don't hesitate. This lab is for you guys. If you want to go through any of the tools that we're going through in the lab, just let me know. Be happy to dive into ones a little more detail. In this one, we're going to be going through Autopsy, I believe, and a couple other tools. In the meantime, this lab right here corresponds to this PBQ on forensics. If we take a look. I believe that one's going to be I think it's incorporated into incident response procedures. So I do recommend you watch that video on this one if you want to get a little more information about forensics. And if you're enrolled in the course, definitely check out my videos on digital forensics. We're going to go through with some hands-on activities how to do these tools. So a pretty important part, you're going to get some specific questions on forensics, particularly on how to use the DD command within Linux, and then also how to use some certain command lines within like Autopsy. So it's important to work with these tools so you get a first-hand understanding of those concepts. So let's wait for this lab to spin up here, and we should be all set. All right, so one of the main concepts of this lab is we're duplicating the drive. Okay, so we're going to be working mostly within Kali, and we're going to use some tools to make an image, a disk image, that we would then use to do our forensics analysis. You never want to work on the target machine, okay? Because as you do, any of the evidence you collect can be thrown out in a court of law. If you need to support a civil suit or a criminal suit, criminal charges or a civil court case, then you would need to have a standard of evidence that would be able to support that. So as a pen tester or a digital forensics analysis, you need to be able to analyze your environment in a secure way, in a way that could preserve the evidence, the chain of evidence. So what we're doing here is we're going to log into our Kali machine, and we're going to use some basic tools, and then we're going to get a little more advanced with what we're doing. Okay. So it looks like we're going to be using Autopsy in our Windows devices, and then we're going to be using, I think, the DD command in Linux. So let's see. All right, so we're going to open up a terminal, and then we're going to list our disk and see some information about our disk itself. And we see here that we have SDA2 is 35.5 gigabytes. SDB, okay, so this is our main disk here, SDA2. So the 1 gigabyte disk here is SDB. So that's SDB. All right, and the reason we put that in there is it's going to change all of these commands. So our 1 gigabyte disk is SDB. And that should be SDB1, I believe. Okay. So we have our disk. I think we'll just use SDB, not the partition. So this is the disk and this is our partition. Okay, so now we're going to use the cat command. And we're going to display information about our partitions. df-h/dev/sdb. Then we're going to use the following command to create a copy of the suspect disk. So this is the disk that we want to do our forensics analysis on. We're going to use that dd command, which kind of stands for data duplication. I mean, not directly, but that's a lot of the Linux commands, make sense if you think about them as an abbreviation or as an acronym. Like the MAN, the man command stands for manual. I mean, not that it's short for manual, and you can't type in manual to make that command work, but it represents that. So dd kind of represents data duplication. All right. So data duplication if dev/sdb of root/suspect.img. So what we're doing is we're duplicating dev./sdb into an image called suspect.img. And I keep flip-flopping SBD and SDB. Should be SDB. There we go. So now that's working. Should take a few seconds, and then we can confirm if this exists here. Okay, great. So we have this many records in, and we have this many records out. We duplicated all of the records. Now the dd command only works in Linux environments. Just keep that in mind. Looks good. Looks exactly like what we have here. Okay, now let's run MD5 check. So MD5 sum suspect.img. And we're going to take this to protect our data integrity. We're taking an integrity or a MD5 hash of our image file so that we know if there are any changes to the image file that would be reflected in our MD5 hash. This is a way to protect the integrity of our device or of our image. Suspect.img to suspect.img, and you can label this whatever you want. We're going to label it dash hash. We're taking our MD5 hash. And then we're just going to display that with our cat command, suspect.img dash hash. Boom. And that's our MD5 hash. Message digest 5 hash. Remember, message digest 5, it's not used to protect passwords, but it's still a useful integrity check. It's still fine for that, okay? We could run a SHA hash if we wanted to as well. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to modify the file itself. Echo today is, and we're going to display the date, today's date. You always want to use timestamps on your artifacts. So we're putting a timestamp on our device here, on suspect.img. Now, it's good to do this, to put this timestamp usually when you first create the file. Okay, but since we've done this, since we changed this with the echo command, now if we run our integrity check, we see that we've tampered our device here. So let's take a look at our MD5 hash, MD5 sum, suspect.img. Suspect.img dash hash. I think we did that right. Okay, and then we do cat. Let's just use the up arrow keys. Use our cat command, and now we see that we have two different hashes. Make sure when you're doing this command, the MD5 sum, the second one, they use two brackets or two arrows here to the right instead of just the one. And you see that the two hashes are different because we modified the file itself. So ideally you want to avoid doing that. Now, if you're actually doing a forensics investigation, you first want to duplicate disk, make an image, and then you want to make an image of, you make a copy of that image. So you want to keep a master image, and then you want to do any analysis on copies of that image. You don't want to modify that first image. Okay, and then we see today is Tuesday, 27 June 2023 at this time. Now, when we did this, when we did echo today is the date, instead of the image file, we got what we did with the echo command, and we have that date instead. So that's what it says here. It appears you accidentally overwrote the entire file, hence the hashes are different. This is an extreme example of the risk of working directly with evidence because you still have the original content located at /dev/sdb. You could use the DD to create another image file. Had you been working directly with the disk content, the evidence would have been destroyed. And it really is that easy. If you modify the evidence or modify the disk in any way, you can destroy the chain of custody or destroy the evidence and the value of that evidence in a court of law. So you really have to be careful. That's why you want to make an image and then do all of your investigation on that image, not on the original data. Okay. All right, great. So now let's go ahead and use Autopsy. Autopsy is a very popular tool. We're going to use this with MS1. Manage server 1. Let's go ahead and jump in here and open up Autopsy and start working with some forensic files. Okay, we're going to open up Autopsy off the desktop. It's going to take a little bit to open here. And we're going to open up a case here using Autopsy. Now, Autopsy is a great tool, open source tool. If you know how to use Autopsy, you'll be in a good place to learn any other type of digital forensics tool. So it's a great place to start learning. And since it's open source, if you get to an organization, they don't have a digital forensics tool, you can recommend Autopsy and install it on their system. It'll work just fine. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to open a case. And we're going to open this in forensics marketing. I think it's this one, forensicsmarketing.aut. Yeah. All right, so now we're opening up Autopsy. And this is the interface itself. I'm going to close Server Manager. It's going to take a moment. Labs are running pretty quick today, I gotta say. Sometimes they run slow. I try and run these demos when the labs are running that they're fastest, so you guys don't have to wait around. Okay. Here we go. Autopsy is going to analyze the disk and show us an overview of what's in there. Okay, we have recent documents, web bookmarks, web history, IP addresses, email addresses with keywords, all sorts of different things. We have a lot of zipped items. Okay, what are these? Interesting files. We could just look through here and just examine these for a bit before we look at this. Let's see. Installed programs. We could see all the different programs they have. MPlayer, Address Book, Connection Manager, Internet Explorer. Some of these, maybe one of these is a piece of malware. I'm not sure what the investigation is going to entail right now. Extension mismatch. The file extension doesn't match what the expected value should be. We have some encrypted files or suspected encryption files, and then one that's confirmed. Marketing.vhd. We have web history. We can see the web history. Bookmarks. These are pretty boring bookmarks. This person's a Microsoft fan. So lots of different information that we can see. Now let's see. We're going to look at data sources and select marketing VHD disk. Okay. So that's going to be in data sources and then marketing VHD. So this is going to be our hard disk. All right. We have a couple of volumes here. Unallocated, 2 NTFS, and another unallocated. Okay, so we're going to expand this out. In the lower panel, we're going to select the hex tab. So let's take a look at we got to pick a volume here. Let's just pick this here. Let's pick volume 2 and then look at hex. And at the bottom here, you can see the hex values. Okay, so this is the hexadecimal output of the disk itself. And what we're looking at is the master boot record. Okay? So let's take a look at volume 2. And we can look at the initial string of hex values right here. This initial string is going to be what identifies this as an NTFS, New Technology File System drive. Let's check volume 3. Let's see, what do we have? We have volume 1, that's unallocated volume 3 here. Just note how the hex starts the same. You see how these start the same in the first row? And then they start changing. So these first values are identical. Kind of clues that in. All right, volume 3 is the boot volume. And if we look at, if we just look at this on the left side, we can kind of get an idea of how this drive is structured. So that's the boot volume. This hosts the operating system files, the applications. We can expand the different folders in here if we want on volume 3. And we can look at the system file, users, Windows files, etc. Volume 2, if we expand that, we get these files here. So let's go to users, viral, and then downloads. So users, viral, and then downloads. Okay. And here we can see these files located in the downloads folder under this user. The username's viral. We don't see any download files really. We just see desktop.ini. We don't really have any download files. Let's take a look at one of the other users. Let's just look at default. Nothing there either. How about public? Okay, none of these have anything. I think it'd be good if they showed some, I don't know, something to differentiate this, but they don't. Anyway. The labs do a good job of showing you, specific steps, but they don't really encourage, at least with the data they put in the lab, sometimes they don't encourage you to play around and come up with your own conclusions. And I wish they did that a little better. All right, but anyway, we can see the different contents of these files and folders. And we can also see the drive contents. We can look at any of the files. We can look at I don't know, let's just look at some documents, for example. Users, documents. We don't have any documents. Okay. It'd be nice to see some files in here that we could look through. But again, we can also look at that through the main, results page here and the keywords. So we can look at like recent documents. Okay, we have some documents here. Jellyfish.ink. Sample pictures. So we have some documents. This is a JPEG. We have some, and you can see that information. Look at the metadata of the file. So this is where you would want to use Autopsy, say if you had an incident in your organization, there was a hacking attempt, and you determined that one user's machine was the one that was compromised. You might use Autopsy to determine how the attacker actually conducted the attack. This is where forensics can be useful. Or you can be investigating something like fraudulent activities within your organization. So, one of your users is stealing, they're an insider threat, they're stealing information from the company, or maybe they're doing some financial fraud. You need to find evidence of that, or some wrongdoing. Okay. Autopsy displays drive contents. Under results node, select the EXIF metadata node. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to just unexpand that marketing.vhd, look at the results, and look at EXIF metadata. Here we can look at images. Maybe there's a criminal investigation. Criminals are displaying, they're taking pictures of drugs or something and they're sending it to one another. I don't know. Some scenario where you'd have some pictures involved. Here's where you can find information on the different images here. So maybe they're smuggling koala bears. Yeah, they're smuggling koala bears. It's a major koala bear smuggling organization. Obviously, we want to stop them from smuggling those koala bears. So we're going to use Autopsy to find pictures of the koala bears that they're using to share between their criminal network, criminal masterminds, koala bear smugglers. So here we can see, okay, here's koala.jpg, and they smuggled this little guy out of the country. We can also look at encrypted data, okay? So we have some encryption detected here. I mentioned this earlier. Or suspected encryption, where we might have some encryption applied to a file. It's not going to perfectly detect if a file is encrypted, but a lot of times it does a really good job. If you have a lot of encrypted files, that could indicate that, maybe there's something that the user wants to hide on the device. And then we can also look at the installed program. So we went through this pretty well, I think, already. We can also sort this by date and time. You can sort this by a couple different, like the names, the types of software, etc. So if we sort it by date and time, we can see the most recent software that's installed, or software has been on the device for a number of years. Pretty big disparity. It looks like most of the software is installed in 2009 or 2017. Those are the only two times software is ever installed on this device. It's just because it's a lab. Anyway, okay, and then we can also look at information about the operating system itself. So let's see, what are the last 4 digits of Viral's security identifier? Okay, so we can look at, we're going to find that under operating system information. Right here. And it's going to be operating system account. Operating system user account. We got to find Viral. There's Viral. Okay, and then we have to find his security identifier, or let's see. The last 4 digits of Viral security, or the SID. Could be this. I'm not entirely sure on this one. Yeah, it is. Okay. So that's going to be the user ID right there. Last 4 digits of that are 1604. So that's the security identifier. All right. Now, obviously, they named the user viral. It's the one we're supposed to clue in on. All right. And let's see, under the web history node, again, we looked at web history. We can look at web history again. Take a look at this. Display information about web browsing habits. We could find, what websites this person has looked at. I mean, these are all from Internet Explorer. You can see information about what they were looking at. We could look at email messages, very helpful. Usually a lot of organization or a lot of forensic investigations are going to be focused on email activity. And here you can just look at the different email accounts associated with this. And then interesting items. We can also look at interesting things here, zip files, things of that nature. Now, it doesn't give us any indication of what this forensic investigation is about. These are temporary files. So what exactly is it going to ask here? It's just asking us to look at a bunch of different files. This looks like a printer file. Or a printer update, maybe. I don't know. What do they want us to look at? Usually you're going to have some sort of guidance when it comes to the forensic investigation. We suspect that we had a malware installed on our system, so we think this device was compromised first. But this one's just saying, hey, look at random files. I wish it would give us an activity to kind of structure this a little bit. All right, select the timeline button from the menu. Okay, let's go to timeline. This is a good, if you have an incident, you want to use probably that timeline button. It's going to give you, we can look at the files themselves, or we can look at files in relation or what activity has happened over time. It can be very helpful. So if we had a breach yesterday, now we're doing a forensic investigation. Maybe our incident response is real good and we resolved it within a day. Now we're doing the investigation on how it happened. Okay. The timeline is going to help us determine when the breach occurred, what files were compromised, etc. This is going to take a moment. Just going to read ahead here, save us a little time here. We can select different time zones, so we'll select GMT. We're going to select 2017. April 29th. Okay, GMT. All right. April, here we have a lot of things going on. Now, they really shouldn't have events all the way back to 2009. It really makes this a pain because we have to really sort this all the way to the right. So we're really looking at the most recent events here. If they just had 2017 events, this wouldn't be nearly as tedious. Okay, here we go. April 29th. So we can put our filter there for April 29th. Now this is going to give us events on April 29th. Okay. Now we have a list of events here. populating that, and it's populating that in real time based on our filter. You go to a list, it'll retrieve that, and we're going to try and find an email message at 1448, 248. And we'll see what happens when Viral opens up this email. I have a feeling it's not going to be something we want to see on the device. I don't know. Just a wild guess there. But we could read the content of that email and see how that affected the operating system. Okay, so here we go. Gotta find the right date here. Okay, tell me it has, there we go, okay. All right, 429 at 1448. I don't know why they've extended this timeline all the way back to 2009. It really does make this a lot more tedious, I gotta say. 1448. It's freezing on me. Okay. I'd like to read that email, but let's go ahead and answer this question here while this is frozen. So what I'm guessing here is that Viral installed malware from an untrusted source. Not only is it lagging, but it's making it almost impossible to find this exact timestamp. And I know we can adjust the date here, you know, adjust the start point, narrow down the number of results, but still, even in the one day. There we go. Here we go. Here's the Viral. Okay, so let's take a look at the message itself. I've installed the update, but it didn't seem to do anything. Viral. Hi, Viral. This is in response from CRM admin. Hi, Viral. Thanks for taking a look at our CRM product. I hope you're impressed with the feature set. Just want to make sure you're aware of a necessary update that's been made available. This will need to be installed straight away for you to make full use of the email tracking features. You can get the update here. And then they give a website. So Viral was tricked installing malware from an email. Well, it wasn't an email attachment. It was an untrusted website. Okay, great. Yeah, it even says the lab makes it difficult to do this. So at least it acknowledges that it makes it difficult. Okay, we did look at that, and we can extract this file if we like. Okay, so we can select this file, we can extract it, we can do whatever we want here. We can view the source file. Whatever we want to do here. Extract files. Let's extract it to the desktop. Yeah, we're going to name this sent1. Okay. That's the default name. Files extracted. Let's score that. That should work fine. Okay, great. Any questions on how to do that? Now, if you're watching the video later, I've edited a lot of this out, hopefully. Any questions? It's a very useful tool. When you have it on your device, it's not going to be as slow as this. Really robust tool for doing forensics analysis. Autopsy. If you learn on Autopsy, you're going to know how to do quite a bit. You can work with pretty much any other tool, I think. Okay, let's do some of the questions. If you guys just write in the chat 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on which one you think is going to be the right answer. So which of the following best describes why you must create an image of the hard disk drive instead of working with it directly? What do you guys think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I'm seeing 2s and 3s from YouTube, Discord. Yeah. 3. Avoid unintended change to the evidence. That's what we did in the beginning. We used that echo command. We changed the image file itself. Not a good idea, because if we're changing the file, and if we're trying to prosecute somebody, say somebody's doing intentionally malicious activity in an organization, the defense attorney could say, well, this evidence was tampered with. We can't use this as part of the trial, for example, as an extreme example. Or which of the following answers best describes purposes of hashes when we use in the command? So we want, remember, hashes protect integrity, right? And if we use hashes correctly, that's going to prove we have not changed the data itself. Which of the following answers best describes why the timeline view as Autopsy is useful? I think this one's pretty good, pretty self-explanatory. Displays a chain of events. All right, wonderful. Great job with that one. Any questions? Okay, since we're awesome, we should get 100% here. So great job with that one. Now, if you guys have any questions, please email info@cyberkrafttraining.com or write a comment here. Be happy to talk with you. And